welcome you all here tonight, our friends, our family, and our neighbors, for our very first Artist Talk. And I do say it's our first because we are planning for this to be an ongoing series. So if you are an artist and you like what you see and you have something that you would like to share with our community, or you know someone else, come find me afterwards. Or you can shoot us an email at rac@ridgewoodnj.net. All right, so let me first invite our special guest. We have Mayor Susan Knutson with us. We have Councilwoman Bernie Walsh, who is our councilman. I also want to thank Steve Freitas, who is still, I think, around the corner. He provided our guitar. And please thank some of the area businesses that contributed so generously to our hospitality. That would be Piccolo Bistro, Mango Jam, and White Maple Cafe. All right, so on to what we're all here for today, which is our Artist Talk with Ariel Adkins. But first I want to bring up Drew Martin, who is a colleague of mine on the Ridgewood Arts Council, a fellow Ridgewood resident, and a working artist. He's going to give us a little information about Ariel.
Thanks to all of you who made all this happen. She's been tirelessly working around the clock to make this happen. But so Ariel and I met about 3 years ago through blogging. I have my own art blog. And I was searching for images for my own blog, and I came across some of her pictures, and I loved her site, which was Artfully Aware. And the pictures were at first really intriguing. She was doing fashion with the artworks, and it was kind of fun and optimistic. And then I started looking at her site, and it goes back to 2010, and post after post, and I realized she's this really interesting visual thinker. And I kind of think of her as like this modern art reviewer, who was so used to the art critics who write pages and pages about paintings and all that. And Ariel doesn't remove it from the art world and turn it into a literary text. She keeps it in this very fresh and engaging way that really complements the artist, I think. So at first I reached out to her for an email interview, which she graciously responded to. And there was a lot of similarities, like she went to William and Mary, my parents here went to William and Mary, got married there, and there's all these, my parents are here. And,
yay, parents!
my wife is back there as well.
Yay.
My mom was always a great influence on the arts, and she also was very much about sewing and ironing and all that stuff, which kind of combined, which is what Ariel does, she combines all these things together. And so that email interview turned into a couple other likes on Facebook and Instagram, and then the first time I met, I invited her to the Whitney Museum, because my company created the Whitney Museum, and so she came to the opening of that. We've met a few times at cafes to just talk about our projects, and a few times at openings, and but mainly through Instagram and Facebook. So if you want to follow her on Instagram, Artfully Aware is where you follow her, and I've always found it. She's been a constant in my life, just even though we don't know each other that well, but like she's always posting stuff, and it's always optimistic, and it's always colorful, and it's always upbeat. So you know, it's really important to have those people, especially living artists in the world, who are working against this. So enough of that. But here's Ariel. She came all the way from Brooklyn for this, and she's spending the night with Sherry. So thank you, Sherry. Take it away.
Thank you, Drew, and thank you so much to everyone here in Ridgewood. It's such a special thing for me to come into a community that's so small and welcoming. Sometimes when you live in New York City, you sort of just like, there's so many people and no one notices you, but here everyone has been so personable and everyone shook my hand and you're all so sweet, so thank you very much for all of this. Yes, I'm Ariel Adkins. I founded artfullyaware.com. It is a blog and a series of workshops centered at dovetailing art and clothing. So here I'm going to just show you one of my most recent projects. I'll start with just an overview of how I made this thing. What am I doing? What is this thing behind me? Why does my face look like that? I love art so much. Art is my biggest inspiration, and I'm always trying to see more art and experience art in a different way. So what I do is I find some artwork that I find interesting, and then I try to recreate it as a piece of clothing. Sometimes this involves sewing, as in this one. Sometimes it involves painting. Sometimes it involves hot gluing pom-poms all over or something. But each time it's a learning process for me, and it helps me to understand the artist and his or her intention in their work in a deeper way. So this is an exhibition that recently closed at the Philadelphia Museum of Art by a Nigerian architect named Francis Carey. And I'd seen pictures of this work, and I had read about what he does, and I was totally intrigued, and I started reading more and getting really excited. So I made this dress, and then I took a train to Philly because I just had to see it in person. So I went actually on the very last day of the exhibition. It was just about to close. I finally made it to Philly. I took all these photos. I spent about an hour in the piece. And then I left to go back to New York. And I posted the pictures online, and I said, everyone, it's your last chance to see this work. Go to Philly and see it at all costs. Like, cancel your plans and go see it. It's amazing. The very day, I got an email from the artist who had seen my picture on the internet. He was in Nigeria at the time, and he said, Ariel, I saw your photo, and I also posted a video. I love it so much. I'm actually going to come to Philly to deinstall the work. Would you come and meet me there?
Oh, so great.
And so the very next day, I took a train back to Philly, rewore the outfit again, and I got to meet Francis Carey, who's the architect of this beautiful piece. And he's done a ton of amazing work all around the world, and he actually commissioned a jacket made out of the material of my dress. So this is just one example of a recent project that you can see sort of came full circle for me, but it really all starts a long time ago when I was a little girl, and that's me, and as you can see, I loved the same colors then as I do now. But the inspiration behind my love of art really came from my parents. They were both artists, and they both always encouraged me in my creative pursuits. And so when I decided I wanted to study painting, they didn't ask me how I'm ever going to get a job, which I was very thankful for at the time. But I went to college and studied painting, and sadly at the end of my college career, my mom passed away. And she was a huge influence in my life. She and I worked on creative projects together all the time. She always encouraged me. She always wanted me to express myself. And I actually got a lot of my sense of style from her. She was really cool, and she had a really good sense of style, and she always encouraged that in me. And so after she passed away, I went through kind of a tough time, you know, as you would. I was 20 years old. It was difficult. I had just graduated from college. I didn't really know what I was doing next. It was like a very tumultuous time for me. And I was sort of like looking for a way to cope. And all of a sudden, I was at a thrift store one day, and I found this skirt. And it's kind of an ugly skirt. I mean, if you look at it and you saw it hanging on the rack, it's kind of ugly. But I looked at it, and it reminded me of Monet's Haystacks. And this was like a painting that I had seen years before. It was on exhibition in Virginia for a short time. But it just like struck something in me, and I started thinking about how the beauty of art can be expressed through clothing. And I was thinking about my mom and how much of an influencer she was in my love of art and my love of style. And I thought about how it would be interesting to combine the two. And so from this point on, I became kind of obsessed with this process. But I wasn't making the clothes at this point. I would see a piece of art, and then I would shop at thrift stores to try and find something that looked like it. And that was fun, but it sort of became a lot. I mean, if you imagine you have something very specific in your mind that you're looking for, and you don't find it, it can be very frustrating. So I went through this for a while, and then I had a thought. What if I had an artist make me a piece of clothing? So this was the first work that I actually did in collaboration with a group of artists. This is a graffiti artist that lives in Brooklyn, and I went to 5 Points, which is a big graffiti neighborhood, and I had all of the different artists graffiti onto a dress. And this was really fun for me. It was like I was in the mix, I felt like a piece of art, and everyone who was there told me how cool it was, and it was exciting for them, and we took a bunch of pictures, and it was great. And I started thinking, well, that's awesome, but how can I take this to the next level? Well, it still took me a while to figure that out. So in the meantime, I started taking photos of myself. I would set up a tripod in my bedroom, as this was, and I would try to recreate famous paintings. So this is one of my favorite works by Picasso. It's called Boy with a Pipe. And I started becoming obsessed with recreating these works of art. I actually, if you see in this photo, I had my dad make this pipe out of wood. Because I was like, Dad, I need a wooden pipe for this photo. And he's like, why do you need a pipe? I said, it's for Picasso. So I started doing this, and I started recreating these things, but I still wasn't making the clothes. I was just trying to recreate the artwork that I was seeing. This is another example. This is Brian McGinnis' work. Here, one that many of you probably know, The Scream, which was on view at MoMA. And then I had the thought, well, maybe I can bring the idea of other people making the work into the community. So I did a couple of workshops. This was a workshop that I did at the Westchester Library. I had about 15 young girls and boys who came in, and they learned about Artfully Aware, and I showed them some of my pictures, and then they each made a piece of clothing, which was really cool, and they were really into it. And then at the end, we did a fashion show, and their parents got to come and watch. So they were super excited about this. They loved it. They said they learned a lot. As you can see, they have a really good sense of style. But I did this a few times, and I really liked the feeling of actually making the work and actually making the clothing. I still didn't get to the full idea of making my own clothes yet. I was still looking and finding things and piecing things together, and sometimes adding or taking away of something, but still not fully making the garment. Until Jackson Pollock. Now, I love Jackson Pollock, and abstract expressionism, which was his art movement, is one of my favorite parts of art history. It was when painting no longer was meant to be done on the canvas or on the wall. It actually went onto the ground, and it was all about the act of creating, which, as you can probably tell from what I've been saying, I'm really into that. So I was going for a visit out to the Jackson Pollock studio in Long Island, and I decided I was going to try to follow the actual process that Pollock used to make his work onto a dress. So I got a dress, I went onto my roof in Brooklyn, I put out a sheet, and I started actually flinging the paint onto the dress, just like he did. I read so many books and so many articles trying to figure out exactly how he was able to do what he did. I even used the exact paint that he used. And I just wanted to learn as much as I could about the process and learn how to experience and recreate what he had done for myself. So I finished the dress, I went to the Pollock studio, and I was standing in the middle of the space where Pollock had actually created these famous paintings, and I was wearing the painting that I had created, and it was just a light bulb moment. It was like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. I'm meant to be making this clothing. Because not only can I express myself and learn more about art at the same time, but it also allows other people to appreciate art in a different way. Because not everyone feels comfortable going to a museum or feels like they know enough to go to a gallery, but everyone can look and appreciate something that you're wearing and learn how to express themselves in a different way. So from that point, I started making my clothes. This one is from the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art with Gerhard Richter. And this was the first time that I actually wore the piece into a museum where the piece was. I can't tell you how many people did like double takes. They were like, one of the museum guards came up to me and said, I know that's not the real painting, but you know, that could be a way to steal one if you just like wrapped it around. But it started at that point being more of a dialogue where I felt like seeing someone in a space wearing this art helped people to be more accessible to the concept. And it's been a really fun journey ever since then. This is a Clifford Still piece. I actually brought this dress, it's upstairs. But again, I wore this into the space. I interacted with people. They asked me questions. They asked me how I made it, and I said, I read about Clifford Still, and I tried to recreate his process. And they were like, that's so cool. Well, what was it like? Like, how did you do this? And so they started asking questions that maybe they wouldn't have thought about if they were just looking at a painting on the wall. And it was a really cool time for me to think, this is actually a way that people can understand art. This is at the Frida Kahlo exhibit at the Botanical Garden. And I actually wasn't going to include this, but Drew said that you would really appreciate it, so this one's for you.
Over there. Oh, go back.
And so from then on, over the past, it's been about 1.5 to 2 years that I've really been making all of these clothes. I have been so excited about it, and I just can't stop making them. The only problem is that I just don't have enough time to make as many as I want to, but that I'm never out of inspiration. There's always so many things that I want to keep doing. This is actually my Halloween costume. This isn't my daily look, but this is from the Louvre, obviously, and they wouldn't let me take photos with the Mona Lisa, so I just had to include this because it was a pretty epic moment. And so one of the new things that I've been doing is working directly with local artists. So what I'll do is I'll go into an artist studio, and we will actually create our work side by side. So as he or she is creating a work, I will create a garment. And so we'll have this ongoing dialogue that's back and forth where I'm watching exactly what they're doing, and then I recreate it on something that I'm doing. And it's been a really, really interesting and fun thing for me to explore the process in a very hands-on way. This is another fun story that I really like. I got a message on Instagram from a woman named Carrie Schmidt, who's in this photo, and she's an artist in Seattle. And she said, Ariel, I just came across your work. I think it's so beautiful. Let me know if you're ever in Seattle. Well, it turns out I was going to be in Seattle in 2 days from the day that she messaged me. So I said, well, actually, Carrie, I'm going to be there in 2 days. Maybe we should do a project. I don't know what your schedule's like. So she picked me up in downtown Seattle. We drove out to her studio, which was in the mountains. Granted, I don't recommend that any of you get into cars with strangers unless they're artists and then on the internet, then it's fine. But she took me out to her studio, and she created these 2 paintings that you see here, and then I made the dress there as well at the same time. So we worked on it together. She has a beautiful studio, and it was just a moment where I felt truly connected to the art process and to the art that she was making. And she and I are actually doing a workshop together this spring, so I'm really looking forward to that. And then, of course, this is the dress, the Chihuly exhibit in Seattle, also the same weekend. It was a very art-filled weekend, but I think this photo, out of everything, just shows how much joy I actually get from this process. I can't contain my love of art and my love of making the art. So the whole thing about this, not only is that it makes people ask questions and experience art in a different way, but I have some imitators now, but I get so many messages from people saying how much they love what I'm doing, and that, look what I did my own Artfully Aware. And so I received this message from a young man in the UK. This photo was taken at the Tate, and he sent that to me and said, this is my Artfully Aware. And then this is a young lady in Albany who messaged me and said that she and her mom were inspired by my story, and they created 5 to 6 different looks inspired by works in the Albany Art Museum, and they sent me the photos, which was very, 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 it was kind of an emotional time. And then I'll just close with this one, because I just want to bring the story full circle, which is that my mom was such an inspiration to me, and I lost her at a relatively young age, but the fact that the Artfully Aware story can be carried on through other people who are inspired to look at art in a different way, but also maybe to create art of their own, is my mission. And I hope that you will take this with you today and know that you can express your love of art and express your love of style in any way that feels comfortable to you, but that you always have a safe place to tell me. Thank you. If you have any questions, I think we're doing a Q&A now.
Yeah.
Yes.
You had problems taking a picture with the Mona Lisa. Have you had other problems taking pictures in museums?
Yes. That is kind of an ongoing thing that I'm dealing with. I have made garments and then gone to the place and been told that I can't take the photo, which is kind of upsetting. So I have a decently good repertoire of people I can email at certain organizations now, and I sort of give them a heads up that I'm coming, and then I don't really make anything unless I know I can get the photo now. So, but that's a great question. Yes.
What do you do with all the pieces? Do you sell them? Do you just have a closet and it's in the closet? How do you want people to see it?
Well, I have a ton of clothes, but I also do exhibitions occasionally, and then I do one-off pieces that I sell to people. So they'll commission a piece inspired by a work of art that they love, or just based on something else that I've done. I actually just started working on 2 commissioned bow ties inspired by art. So I've worked in all different mediums and styles of clothing, but I have a hard time parting with the ones that I've already made. So at some point I'll just have to get a storage unit or something.
If a retailer approached you, as I know these are one-off works of art, but if a retailer approached you and said, I want 5,000 of this dress in 6 different sizes, are they capable of reproduction in that way?
That's a tough one. I've thought about it, and I have been approached by some people that it wasn't the right fit. But I think I would do it if it was the right project and if it was an artist that was willing to work with me. So there is some copyright issue involved if I'm going to make this and sell it and it's based on a work of art. If it's an artist that is in the public domain, it doesn't matter. But if it's an artist that is still alive or is represented by the Artist Rights Society, then I would have to have it cleared by them. So.
But are the designs capable of being mass-produced? Because they seem so unique.
Yeah, I think I would simplify the silhouettes. So some of them are more complicated. I think I would just make them like a simple shaped dress or something like that. But the designs could be screen printed.
The photography seems like an important element to showing your work. And do you go into a project with an idea or concept of what you want your image to be like, of you engaging with the piece, or do you just engage with the piece while you're there and see what comes out in the photograph? And who does your photographs? Do you have someone you trust that you bring with you, or you just kind of wing it?
Drew and I were actually talking about this on the train. So early on, I took all my own photos. I did it with a tripod, and I was kind of, like, it was hard, but I was more able to capture exactly what I wanted because I was the one taking the photo. Yeah. Granted, if you're in a museum or a public space, you can't like set up a tripod and then like jump in front of it and then. But I have a great friend Kathy, who has taken many of my photos. My boyfriend takes many of my photos, but I also have credits to probably 50 to 75 other people who just happened to be there on the day, and I gave them my camera and said, wow. So it's kind of a collaborative thing.
Okay.
Hi, love everything about you. You really are an artist, and I love how you're evolving still. And I was thinking, when I get ideas, I get sort of stunted by my own fear of, for example, how do you pick those outfits for the artist? Like, how do you get from, oh, I want to do that one, do the Mona Lisa, oh, I'll make socks. Now, do you make the socks? Do you make
I didn't make the socks.
Do you come in with a blank white dress and do something? Like, are you a sewer? I missed that jump from where's the first piece of the clothing comes out, you decide what it is going to be and such.
Well, I do all the things. I do sewing, painting, not every, but a lot of different types of media. Generally, I have a vision of what I want the end result to look like, and then I'm just trying to get there. I think the design process is such that I can always see the finished product first, and then I just troubleshoot. Like, I test a lot of different paints and a lot of different materials before you see a finished product. which is sort of the fun part for me, like figuring out exactly how to mimic the artwork on a piece of clothing. But I also struggle with it. It's a hard thing too. I mean, I haven't really figured out a good way to do more sculptural things, like something that would be three-dimensional. I've tried using fabric stiffener before, but I haven't really cracked that one yet. So I think it's just an ongoing thing that I'm always still figuring out too.
But do you keep a number of white shifts in case you get a call to go to Seattle in 2 days?
Yes. I do. I have a whole bag of white just garments that I've collected.
So you're ready to go.
Yes.
Have you done anything in the Metropolitan?
I haven't.
What have you done
Oh. Put me on the spot. I know.
there?
Oh, I've done Gauguin.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I've met.
I was at that Wednesday, a student who was also there last month, and I saw a woman wearing a skirt with Fragonard paint. And I said, where did you get that? And she said, well, she was from another country. She said, I got it online because I was coming to the Met.
Oh, I would love to see that.
Yeah, I should have taken a picture of it.
I would have loved that.
It was very pretty, black skirt. And I thought about it Wednesday when I went over to the room that has some blackness. So, I guess there are other things online that
Yeah.
probably someone who's seen the work and supplies.
Maybe.
Do you paint the fabric first and then make the garment, or do you make the garment and then paint it?
So a
Or
lot
is
of
it different for different?
It's different for different things. A lot of the dresses are very simply cut just because I want it to have like a flat surface for painting on it. A lot of them are dresses that I've gotten from the thrift store that I just use as a canvas. It just depends on the project.
So how do you select the artwork? Like, is it a systematic search, or is it just whatever happens to, you happen to see that you like, or are you like, oh, I'm gonna go look at this museum next week, or this school of art museum, or how does that happen?
I guess when I first started out, I was actively trying to see art to get inspired, and now the art comes to me more often. I get a lot of emails from galleries or artists who want to show me their new work or say, come and check out this new exhibition. And in that way, I sort of always have too much inspiration. Like, I'm not able to make something for everything I want to. But if I'm ever feeling like I'm in a lull, I just go walk around a museum and then I'm like, a million things I want to do.
Yes. Did you see the last fashion exhibit at Met? It was machines and
Oh,
Manus.
Manus Ex Machina.
Oh, yeah. Did you notice that they had the 3D printers?
Mm-hmm. Maybe that's an option.
You could do that.
Drew, you have a 3D
Yeah.
Oh, I liked it. It was inspirational.
Okay?
Can you just tell the one story? I love the story when we went to Philadelphia Art Museum and he noticed you in the audience. That was her part.
Oh yeah, I kind of skipped over that part. Well, back to the, here, I'll just go back here. Back to this one. So I said that I had been at the museum, I took the photos, the artist saw them and then invited me to come back and meet him. And I don't remember why, but I hadn't responded to his email. I think I was just like, I gotta get on the train. So I showed up there and he was giving a talk. It was an auditorium full of about, I don't know, maybe 300 people. And he was speaking about his work and showing slides. And then in the middle, he just like stopped and he was like, it's the dress! And he had me stand up and like turn around. And then everyone clapped and it was cute.
Can you explain that dress? How you made that?
So this dress is made out of, well, it's upstairs, you can see it, but it's like a shift dress, and then I used pieces of fringe that I cut into different lengths and hand sewed them on at just different levels throughout, and it was kind of fun because it was like a painterly process of overlaying the colors, and it's actually one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
like this book.